Whether she apologizes or not is her call, but I wonder what she's apologizing for. I actually do wonder what she's apologizing for. That she's been witch hunted? For not bantering to some demands? Or that she spoke up? Or that she's not representing her people? Or that the Senate is a court? A privileged position? Or what? What actually is she apologizing for? Bringing your Senate to disrepute? You are not the one to tell us what to think of you. In everything and the way you have handled the matter, we have formed our opinions. We have made our conclusions. Apologize to men who came to appease themselves in the name of deliberations. Some say apologize and get the duration of the suspension reduced. Others say apologize and be recalled. And one will begin to even wonder, what's the actual duration for suspending a senator? Looks like they doubled hers. Or do you just decide what you think? You no longer obey your own rules because you are aggrieved, you are angry that somebody brought you out in the public when we saw it even before the person spoke up. Our nation has yet again come under disrepute by the actions of those who put themselves in office and call themselves our leaders. Today, the Nigerian women are crying. Today also reminds us of how AKPABIO became the Senate president. And the reason we remember all this is to put a hand on why he's so incompetent and why, under his leadership, our Senate has become the rot it is. The way we feel now is the way we felt the very day Yakubu Mahmoud, in the secrecy of darkness, declared Tinubu the president or the winner of the 2023 presidential election. And a few corrupt elements that call themselves judges consolidated that anomaly. The country felt humiliated because that wasn't a representation of the will of the Nigerian people. And because also they have failed to empirically prove how this man became our president. If you ask Donald Trump or the United States how Donald Trump became the president of USA, they will show you empirically, and it stands the test of time. Up to date, we don't know how our president became the winner of 2023 presidential elections. There are no empirical facts to that. And the same man single-handedly picked AKPABIO as the Senate president. We have not forgotten how AKPABIO was reshuffled to produce President Tinubu as the sole candidate of his party. All of a sudden, AKPABIO became a two-time contestant in one election cycle. That background is to tell you how we got where we are. And the Senate was a compensation for paving way for Mr. President. As if that disgrace wasn't enough, this man has constantly disgraced the Nigerian people in the Senate. And yet again, his incompetence, his unprofessionalism, and his behaviors show again. In the disqualification, and AKPABIO, who was reshuffled in the permutation to make Mr. President the sole candidate of his party, brings his wrath to the Senate. A repugnant, despicables calling themselves distinguished. Nigeria is at a crossroad where men who force minors into marriage, rape girls, claim honor. Natasha is a member of the opposition PDP, and none of his party members stood up for her. PDP up till now hasn't come to defend their own. No woman in the Senate stood up for her. No wonder Senator Kingibe rushed from a hospital bed to speak for herself and the other 2 women in the Senate, simply because they know the high-handedness of the wolves they call men in that Senate, and how they will come heavily on them. They say to themselves, at the detriment of their fellow.
To our representative and I stand on privilege 10 order 10.
No, sorry.
President, please, with due respect, do you mind? I have raised order 10 privileges, please. I believe, and please, would you stop turning off my microphone? I represent people, and I represent women who have been silenced.
I'm hearing you.
Any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and he or she shall be prepared to move without notice a motion declaring that the contempt of breach of privilege has been committed. I stand and I believe herefore, sir, that your denial, your refusal to accept and treat my petition before the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges and Abuse of my privileges, and I say forth that this matter is not something, it is not before the courts. The matter before the court is on the defamation and cyberbullying statements made by your special assistant on new media, Mr. Patrick Conform, who addressed my decent outfit as transparent, thereby depicting that I walk sedulously and naked to the chambers. That is the nature of the petition, of the case in court. This petition, sir, has never been filed. The petition that alleges, or should I say, accuses you of making sexual harassment moves, abusing your office, and making malicious obstructions to my legislative functions has not been tendered anywhere before, no court.
For AKPABIO to come and begin the oppressions of the Senate like nothing happened shows you that they never wanted to entertain anything. They never wanted to look at the weighty allegations on ground. If not that, Natasha still presented a petition. So they move on like nothing happened. I'm speaking today as a woman who knows the pains of sexual harassment. I have paid dearly for it. And as I talk, I will be giving snippets, if possible, on very many cases where I have been sexually harassed. It's when I went for an industrial attachment in Port Harcourt. I was supposed to put up with another campus student, but because of lack of space in their hostel, she referred me to a friend outside campus, a single lady living by herself in a big compound. And few days of coming into that compound, I was alone. And Precious had gone out. Obviously, this predator noticed that I don't know much about him and I was alone. He noticed that somebody was not at home. And all he did was come into the boys' quarters. He lived in an upstairs in the big building, and this lady lived behind the upstairs in a boys' quarters where you can see through the windows what's going on. And I was alone in that room. And this predator knocks. As he knocked, I quickly opened the curtain to see who he was. And he was this gigantic young man standing before me. I thought I could give a direct answer to him while he leaves. Before I knew it, he pushed through the door and came in. I was moving around the room as if he's looking for something or making further inquiries about the lady that I live with or I was putting up with. Within splits of seconds, he is already making advances at me. I thought it was something you can just talk through and tell him, so sorry, please, I don't want that. Because I felt he needed my consent, knowing full well that there was nobody in the room. So it was supposed to be a talking to, and I either reject or not. But this guy never did that. He pounced on me. I fought. Why I get angry when I remember it is the energy I exerted that day. I fought. The curtain was dropped. The door was open. As I tried to make my way to the door, this guy was overpowering me. I pushed and pushed and pushed. All the taekwondo tactics I had learned in school, I used them. He would come like this. I would fling myself this other way to lose his grip. It was a massive fight that I knew was at the point of death. I needed to save myself. I did a lot of things that I should do before God saved me. Imagine that gigantic person holding you this way, only to put you on the ground, and you are fighting him off. I fought, and God helped me. God helped me. Immediately I could reach through the door. I ran out panting. You know how you sit back and reflect on what you just went through? the day, my thoughts was on what I went through. I shedded silent tears. I screamed silently. I imagined if a married man whose wife was heavily pregnant, a young lady at that, had taken advantage of me. He came out smiling like nothing happened. The landlady was in the building, but it's like they already know him as a despicable fellow. And they excuse everything. They laugh. Leave him, oh, that is how he is. Because he felt he has some cash in his pocket and he's looking somewhat presentable or handsome. So every lady he sees should be at his beck and call. But I detested him. Imagine, I can't explain everything. Imagine the pain I went through in the hands of a desperate fellow who wanted to have his way at all costs. Some part of my clothing were ripped off. My hands squeezed. Oh my. I will always say that if not for my upbringing, I would have gone. Imagine weak girls who will do, stop it, leave me. They will be gone. I fought like a lion, never giving this guy access to what he wanted. If it would take his tearing off my whole cloth, if it would take his squeezing my hands and bones to any extent, that's all he could do. I never bothered about anything getting spoiled. I used everything I could see to fight off this lion. I screamed. I made noise. But he understands the terrain properly than me. People had gone to work. The landlady, who obviously is at his worship, kept quiet. So that is just one incident. What about when you shake them and they poke your fist in a suggestive manner? All these come together to make a right-thinking woman angry at the way the Senate handled Senator Natasha's case. This idiot that I talked about was never ashamed of himself. Imagine in that kind of environment, he will make you the wrong person. Then he meets the person harboring you and telling her that you're not good to be here, and ganged up against me. And the fellow said I should leave her house. Because in her mind, she is single, she is looking for the attention of the young man, and I don't care. So the man's opinion and beef about me is like spoiling market for her. We have a problem. And our Senate, the people who say they are representing us, should not gloss about it. Senator Itagawa came and said, how? When you get to the Senate, you should be above sexual harassment. When you become an adult, you should become above sexual harassment.
It is never reported because it will be seen as a weakness in men. And it was Senator Florence Idagwa also said to be harassed in the Senate as a senator being a female is also a sign of weakness.
It's a lie. As a married woman, I can still tell you many more ordeals. I went for an examination somewhere recently. A colleague who I just met in the period of the exams videoed his full self in his hotel room, stark naked, fondling with himself, and sent to me. All in the bid to seduce me to come over to his hotel, because he felt I'm away from my home and I could play. I'll play along with him. He is also a married man. Should I go on recounting these experiences? And more than 90% of Nigerian women can attest to this menace. We are not sexual tools. We are not to banter to the ego and feelings of corrupt men. Men are beautiful beings. We have many responsible ones among them. But there are a few that have not tamed themselves, and they see the women around them as tools tools to be used. That is why the Senate is so aggressive about Natasha's reports of her experience in the Senate, because they feel it's a male-dominated space and they can do whatever they like.
So what we saw was a drama of the absurd to cure an absurdity. And that absurdity had been cured by the action taken by the Senate today when it took that decision to suspend its member who flouted its rules. Whatever, any other matter that comes after this is a different kettle of fish completely. What was at issue, which Nigerians were being diverted from, was the issue of breaking the rules when the decision was taken by the presiding officer of the Senate, as enshrined by the rules of the Senate, that a seat should be changed, and it became so excessively dramatized by a drama queen who has made it a point of duty to embarrass the entire institution of the legislature.
In their works, they regulate themselves. We have a problem. Forgive me, I apologize, this video is going to be somewhat long, because we are protesting, the Nigerian women are protesting over the judgment of the Senate that is supposed to be representing the people of Nigeria, that has unilaterally on a Women's Day, International Women's Day, labeled Nigerian women mentally unstable and said that we have to undergo stability tests before we can become senators or contest a government position. That is huge. That is huge. And no right-thinking woman should keep quiet.
Let me add that the women folk and indeed public officers may have in future to be subjected to mental stability tests in order that you qualify to be a governor, a councillor, or a senator. Otherwise, you are going to get this anti-market, especially at a time when we're asking for gender inclusion and gender equality. We are at this point facing this situation in which a gender issue is being trivialized and demonized and over-dramatized on the floor of the highest legislative house in this country, the largest black nation on earth, and the largest black democracy in the world. I think this is a fitting closure to this drama that was started from nowhere to this level of absurdity. And I want to commend the Senate for doing this and taking this action so swiftly and not allowing it to soar into another level of triviality and diversion. At a time our country is on trial over several economic and social upheavals and security issues, we are talking about sitting arrangements, about those who are brought into the Nigerian Senate and into legislative positions and decision-making that will alleviate the sufferings of the people of Nigeria and the
video, I had narrated some experiences also, in which case I also paid dearly for it. I won't bore you with the details. At other cases, somebody arranged drinks and said, let's have a drink. And you say, I don't do drinks. You say, no, it's not alcoholic drink. I'm going to get you soft. And you say, no, don't. Allow me the space to make my choices. And you are forcing me. You force me. You make arrangements to the point that you pretend to drop me off in a car while you lead me into the den of your trap. And then I resist you with a strong will, rejecting your offer. You get angry. You team up against me in an institution where I belong. How many can we say? How many can we say? This injustice that the Senate is consolidating won't go far. They will all pay for it.
On earth. Therefore, today's fair hearing or no fair hearing was sufficiently demonstrated by your live coverage of the incident and of the sitting of the Senate and the unanimous decision that no dissenting voice ever took place. Even those who dissented were only amending not to carry along others who were not affected. For example, the intervention by Senator Ojuzo Kalu that the eighth should not be affected by the sanctions was in order. It showed the maturity of the Senate that it was not just being punitive, it was only being corrective, and that the 6 months was indeed a very mild way to deal with the situation. And
AKPABIO must go. We will hashtag it AKPABIO must go. We pass a vote of no confidence on the Senate we have at the moment. We declare all of them persona non grata because in trying to package themselves, in trying to make us feel that they are honorable, they gang up against Senator Natasha. They showed us all they can be: aggressive, angry, predators, operating the Senate as a cult by the rules they make for themselves. making it difficult to speak up in the Senate. Did you go through all the lists of punishments they meted on somebody who complained? Because they want to make it difficult for others to complain next time. Amplifying trivial matters to hide the serious ones. In their statement, we are starting a journey, and the journey will depend on your attitude.
Assembly. Do you remember a senator that was called Oton Zeribe? A distinguished senator who was one of the richest people in Southeastern Nigeria. And when he entered into the Senate, he carried along on his shoulders his weight of that tenor. We are starting a journey now. And the journey depends on your attitude.
They have concluded to lay off this lady and has given her conditions to make it difficult for her to come back. Even when they shut her microphone off, they screamed she's not coming back. They turned off her microphone, not even allowing her to make a remark.
Prayer 7. That for the period of her suspension, she be barred from representing herself to the public locally and internationally as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Those who support prayer 7 say aye. Those again say nay. The ayes have it. Let me thank my colleagues.
This injustice will not be sustained. The pursuit for justice.
She's not coming back.
She remains a senator representing her people, not the Senate. She's not representing the Senate. She's representing her people. The Senate is not a privileged title. The Ethics and Privileges Committee, the so-called committee that is supposed to look into issues, complaints, profile reforms, look at two parties involved in a matter. They take a side, demonize one of the parties. We saw it coming. They all came to the national television to register their displeasure. How then would justice take its place? The Senate is a misogynistic Senate. The misogyny is obvious.
You don't give an avenue to somebody who is recalcitrant. You can only give avenue for somebody who is willing. If somebody is willing, even today, what we saw this morning about another petition on the same issue should not have come up. Mr. President, it is always a pleasure when I come into this chamber and I see people like Senator Oji Uzokalu, a 1999 governor, Senator Goje, 1999 minister and two-term governor. I always feel very happy shaking hands with the likes of Senator Lawal. And I put myself as being a very lucky person if I stand and I shake hands with even the distinguished Senate President. I know where I was in 2007 when you became a governor in this state, in this country. And I know it is not for mere guys, mere people that can become governor in your state. In terms of age, Mr. Senate President, I felt so bad that on that fateful day, Senator Natasha can speak to you the way her manner. Senator Natasha cannot be my sister, my junior sister, because I'm 15 years older than her, and my mother does not have anybody that is 45 in age. For her to point at you and speak the way she spoke to a number 3 man in this country is an affront. In my village, nobody will accept that. So for anybody to now put this option number 2, that if somebody, it is not supposed to be, no, it is supposed to come from her willingly, I want to apologize.
Every of the men against one woman. Out of 109 persons, were they even up to half? No. They handpicked those ones who will support their wrath. And they unanimously said they formed a forum. Misogyny. The supposed chairman of the committee condemned her online, condemned her in the panel. All the people that spoke were all men. No woman in that Senate spoke or said anything, such that even the accused was not allowed to say anything. In the beginning, they told us that they cannot entertain a matter that is in court. And when it favors them, because it favors them at the time, and when again it favors them, they say the court cannot tell us what to do. If she didn't appear before your panel, it means she's afraid. Who will not be afraid? With the arrays of anger these people have shown. I was saying that if they show this level of anger in public, what will it be in the Senate? If I were Natasha, I would have come to that committee and passed a vote of no confidence on all of them, asking them to recuse themselves in my matter. The lawyers were in their right position to tell her not to appear before a panel that is going to tear her apart. Whatever law you want to cite. If there is a British bulldog on the way that I want to pass, will I walk into my death?
There was an interim order from a federal high court restraining the Senate from investigating Senator Natasha's recent actions. Now the Senate has gone ahead and she's been punished for her actions. How law-abiding then does that make the Senate?
Now, let me first give you the first clarification. It is a constitutional enshrinement. It's a constitutional enactment, not even an act of the National Assembly. Any matter pending before a court of law shall not be discussed by any legislative house in Nigeria. Conversely, no court in Nigeria shall interfere in a matter under consideration by any legislative house. This matter was on the floor of the legislative house, and the court went ahead to give an order. That order is an illegal order and ought to be disregarded.
Contradictions everywhere. The protesters they hired never understood the crop of the matter. You know why? Many of them, these market women, have children who have been molested. They are weeping over husbands who share daughters with them. And if they are told the real situation, the nucleus of the matter, many of them would not appear there. But they painted a different picture for them, as if it's a political context, that many of them are saying, we don't want Natasha. We want the Senate president. Is it a contest? Are we vying for any position? So they make them understand it as a political tussle, a political position that two people are involved, the woman and the man. Many of them are mothers who, if they understand the nucleus of the whole matter, they will not appear there. I have handled a case where 3 daughters of the same man, the man that they say, I have daughters, I have a wife. This man had 3 daughters and impregnated the 3 of them and aborted it. The wife at the time got to know, but she was threatened by the same man. She suffered a lot of pains. No woman, right thinking, will spill the nonsense those people are spilling from their mouth. We have a problem in our hands, something the Senate should help us fight, but they are doing cover-up. They wanted a situation where none of these matters will be investigated. We are not saying that the allegation over AKPABIO has been proven to be true. But if there is an opportunity to find out whether it's true, why don't you allow it? If there is also an opportunity to find out if it's not true, it will be nice. But they don't want the matter entertained. They are doing everything to remove the standard for this matter. At this point, I continue to say that we pass a vote of no confidence on the Nigerian Senate. They don't represent us, they represent themselves. Because they have never allowed fair play. How can AKPABIO be presiding over his own matter? The accused presiding over his own matter, is he going to crucify himself? Natasha's suspension is not valid since that petition has not been heard. On what basis did you suspend her? You guys say you are suspending her on misconduct, but all your deliberations were on sexual harassment. All your venting, all your whitewashing, all your psychophancy around AKPABIO was centered on the accusation of sexual harassment. What are you now saying? The conduct they reference is consistent with the behaviors of a sexually harassed individual. And we maintain that they cannot judge Natasha's outbursts or behaviors on those conducts. They cannot handle it in isolation. If you say you change the seats of 4 senators the same time, they weren't predisposed to the same situation Natasha was predisposed to. Sexual harassment, as she alleges. The haste to suspend Natasha is malicious, indecent, against the rule of law, and against her personal rights. In conflict resolution, you consult the courts to defend you, and you rely on their guidance to defend yourself. her counsel had asked her not to appear before that committee. Seeing the arrays of attacks on her person, and no right-thinking person should not understand why she wasn't in that committee. Why the haste? The aspect of the recall of her security aid, they reconsidered simply because it will affect them tomorrow.
I believe withdrawal of security aids at this moment from a senator is not the best way to go. And we should not really create a precedence where the moment something happens with a member of the National Assembly, the security agencies will say withdraw the security aids. Because this could be a problem to us later. So I just want us to reflect on it.
They claim to have put to rest this situation. Just worsened your troubles. Your troubles just started. You look at Nigerian women and say they have to go through mental checks before they become government officials. They have to go through stability tests before they can be considered as senators. It's no longer about their people voting them for representation. It is you making the Senate a privileged position that you now decide when Nigerian women become part of it. You haven't put this matter to rest. We call on CSOs, human rights agencies, Nigerian women, women at large, and any other organization in charge of ensuring our dignity to rise up in protest against this injustice meted against a woman who is witch hunted for speaking up. Sexual harassment is juvenile. Disregarding court orders, and you say it's legislative matters. Legislative matters. This is not legislative matters. This is matter bordering on ethics, conduct, behavior, decorum in the Senate, something that concerns you people as individuals and how you run yourselves in that enclosure. It has nothing to do with the laws and the legislations or your legislative functions. Your pettiness is not the issues bordering Nigeria. Your drama in your Senate is not part of your legislative functions. It's not part of the issues bordering Nigeria. So don't hide under rules, under legislative functions to perpetrate crimes.
Also said to be harassed in the Senate as a senator being a female is also a sign of weakness. Most men endure harassment without making noise about it. I am a victim. I can tell you that. I've been a victim of sexual harassment by married women. As a legislator, I was sexually harassed on several occasions. I escaped, but I can't report. The reason being that it is not sin of a man and it's not possible for a man. So let me tell you.
Sexual harassment. If you've been harassed, don't shut up those who are speaking up. Speak up for yourself. And if you don't want to speak up, do not suppress those who want to speak up. She's not demarcating any Senate. You are the ones demarcating yourselves, because we have seen everything you did in recent times. We've seen everything you have done. And yet again, we pass a vote of no confidence on you, and we continue saying it, that you are persona non grata. First, you say you cannot entertain a matter that is in court. And then she tells you the matter is not the one in court. Then you go, she cannot submit her own petition. What are you saying? These laws and rules you are quoting is rules for man, laws for man and not man for law. Why things happen daily is for us to look at obsolete laws and change them. The authoritarianism in the Senate should not continue after now. All these things that are becoming issues, they should review them. Senator Natasha is a member of her constituency. If something is done against her, she can represent herself, she can speak for herself. If I submit a petition, I submit it for myself. You cannot tell me that to report what happened to me, to petition about an issue, about myself, I will now be looking for somebody who will speak for me, or who will submit such petitions for me. Do you think that's because you know that nobody would want to speak up in the case of sexual harassment? You are hinging on finding somebody who will second what she said, and the allegation is something personal. How will another person corroborate somebody's experience when it comes to sexual harassment? No modus operandi is casting stones. And if the need arises, we amend them to foster a progressive society. She's a member of her constituency. Are you saying if she has problems, she becomes supreme, immune to complaints, to challenges? If she's the person involved, she can represent herself. She's not immune to challenges. She's not supreme. She can have problems. As at the time people put up this law, you guys envisage that it will be constituents meeting their senators. What if it is the senator that's involved? So she goes outside her constituency to go and look for representation. People who are daft running our agencies. You say she can put her name on it, yet she can't present it. That your rule says someone can put her name or his name on a petition, but she can't submit it. What's the meaning of that? Playing hide and seek. I put up a petition, I give it to another person to submit. It's like when we used to go and tell our younger ones to speak to our parents over a broken plate. You were washing plates and it fell off, it slipped off your hands due to the slippery nature of the soap and broke. Because of the fear of the harassment our parents did in the days of ignorance, we send our younger ones to go and break the news to mommy that I've broken her special plates. Something you should own up to and freely tell your mother, mommy, I'm sorry, I broke the plate while washing it. Thank God for knowledge and understanding these days. These things are changing. So the Senate is also saying we should continue playing hide and seek. I write a petition, put my name on it, and then I look for somebody to submit it for me. Like a student who is submitting an assignment late and is looking for another lecturer to go and beg the other lecturer to submit the assignment. Our Senate should not run that way. So if your name is on it, you are the one submitting the petition. So your stability test is more like, don't come here, we don't want you. Go away from the Senate if you're a woman. Don't contest in governance if you're a woman in Nigeria.
Discourse on this very important issue. And if you look at the type of stereotype of form of perception and the negative and the unfortunate situation, this distinguished Senator Natasha, after all the appeal made by her prominent senators from her state, she continued to go to the court and continue to go to the public instead of refer to the Committee on Ethics and Privilege. I think if we are not enforcing our constitutional responsibilities, I urge this Senate to expunge the second recommendation for that the Senate to consider lifting the suspension or reducing the tenure of suspension of Senator Natasha if she submit a written apology to the Senate before the reconsideration by the Senate, because she has the leverage to do what is needful as a matured and responsible woman. But despite that appeal by my neighbor, she went and destroyed the names of prominent leaders of this institution. So I'm against the lifting of any or reducing any suspension less than 6 months, which was recommended by the committee. And at the same time, if we are not imposing our laws into those that breach the law, so that means our coming here is meaningless. Because if you look at all of us here, we have the mandate of Nigerians.
Is the animal kingdom the kingdom of the lions? Don't come here. If these people consider that every girl, every woman, every female folk, and even the male folk that have been molested is watching, and that our society is being shaped at this moment, if they actually understand the enormity of what's going on, I don't think they will be acting this way. Obviously, they don't understand. They don't know their roles. They don't understand that our society, our values, our opinion, our national values and what we place importance on is being shaped right now. Our perception in the Committee of Nations is being shaped right now. I already checked the headlines, checked BBC, checked some other news stations internationally. How a woman was suspended for sexual harassment, for reporting sexual harassment. What? You are saying she's not being suspended on the grounds of sexual harassment, is on the grounds of flouting the rules of the Senate? Yet all your deliberations, all your rantings, all your frustrations, all your ventings were on sexual harassment. And trying to package Mr. President and banter to his ego. Mr. Senate President and banter to his ego.
Is the wife of my very close friend and brother. So I thought. On the day of our marriage, I slept in Kogi, in her house, 2021 or 22. The next day, I ran to Obajana Airport. I missed I missed my flight because the plane could not land since there are no light. So I ended up sleeping at Dangote cement factory with 9 people. So I spent 3 days. Please, give me a chance to say. Even when Senator Webwe attempted to say that he was present in the same car, the social media said he was lying. But you see, we have been taken to the floor. We have been dragged to the floor. I have a responsibility. If you look at the rules of the Senate, I don't only interpret the rule, but the rule, which is an extension of the Nigerian Constitution, gives me the power under Section 20, subsection I and H. No, H and I.
We are all Natashas. Stop akpabiolising us. We are all Natashas. Stop akpabiolising us. Stop suppressing us. Stop shying away from the real issues and handling mundane things like rules that can be reviewed and changed, rules that are authoritarian, rules that shut people up. No wonder everybody's walking in that Senate like they are stepping on broken glasses. Nobody wants to collect. But the one that is bold, and this injustice will not be sustained. We have noted all of you, including you, Madam Kingibe. Nigerians voted you because we thought that you could stand up no matter what is at stake. No matter what is at stake. Honor is more than certain things. But little did we know that you are the career politician you are. All is good that saves my head in a corrupt Senate. We will keep hashtagging AKPABIO must go, a vote of no confidence on the Nigerian Senate. Stop akpabiolising us. We are all Natashas. We will keep hashtagging it until this corrupt Senate, this shameless Senate that want to enforce a perception of integrity on us, reviews their decision. Believe what we see and not what you say. What you're surprising her for is against the Senate rules. Why are you clearing your name? Explaining your ties and seeking respect. These men present a different reason when the issue is deep. The issue is deep. Deep-seated anger and hate. You're a nice man. No weapon fashioned against you will prosper.
Senate President, that no weapon fashioned against you shall prosper. Senator AKPABIO, no weapon fashioned against you shall prosper. And every tongue, Senator AKPABIO, that rises up against you in judgment shall be condemned. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and the vindication from me, says the Lord. Sorry, my Muslim brothers, that I don't have a Quran. Mr. Senate President, you are a nice man. You are a good man. Senator Kingibe said something that Senator Natasha benefited greatly from you, very greatly. And Senator Ferdinand just said something. You don't have friends. Because if Senator Natasha and the husband can do what they have done to you, then who are your true friends? When this issue happened, I asked Senator Natasha, is there a problem between the SP and your husband? She denied. And I was wondering, when the senator came here, we extended a lot of courtesies to her and the husband. Several occasions that we have attended, Mr. Senate President, we create seats for the husband in the midst of the Senate President. When he's not one.
Her mic was turned off. She was not allowed to speak. On this day, the International Women's Day, we weep. We cry for our nation. Mothers arise, women arise, weep for Nigeria, for her shame is too much. Nigerian women have been slighted and called mentally unstable by those who say they represent them. Ireti Kingibe, Senator Ireti Kingibe signed to slight a sexually harassed woman. So if you weren't with her when the incident happened, you will say she's not telling the truth. Even you can testify. You despise social media. That is a cross-section of Nigerians. And what you see on the media is the actual issues. Not the ones you people tell yourselves in your chamber. This matter must not go or die the way they want it. We must register our displeasure. It is on record today that we do not agree with whatever the Senate has done over Senator Natasha's case. Let it be on record that she was maliciously suspended and with a probable plan to dismiss her. Let it be on record that we do not accept her suspension. The Kogi people where she represents should register their displeasure and show their dislike of the withdrawal of the person that speaks for them. In that Senate is incomplete without a representation from you. Let it be on record that whatever they did is for their personal aggrandizement and not for solving Nigeria's issues. Let it be on record that we do not accept Senator Natasha's suspension. Let it be on record that we still see her as a Senate of Nigeria, a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let it be on record that her reputation is intact before us. She has no sin. Let it be on record that she's been unjustly suspended. She's been maligned. She's been attacked by men who should respect her place, her position, and not see her as a subordinate or as somebody who should yield to them. Let it be on record that another injustice has been done to Nigeria, and we are not part of it. These people who are feeling larger than life, we have taken note of all of you. Never again, never again, we will give you the leeway to oppress us. Never again will you be allowed to have access to power with which you destroy the fabrics of our nation. Corrupt elements like you can no longer lead us. We arise for one of our own that has been demonized, suppressed by those who feel they can handle her, and those who are leveraging on the powers of states, which they didn't give themselves. The people gave those powers. Justice for Natasha.